Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are across the globe. We appreciate you joining us for this edition of MCAP events, our bi-monthly events. We are glad to have Coach Buki with us again, and she has chosen a very wonderful, apt topic for this time. The year has gone into half. Everybody, I don't know about you, but me, I look at it. What have I done? Looking at my goal for the year, am I on right track? Are there things I can change? And one thing that she said, she said, sometimes you don't need a new you. What you probably need a new alignment, a new changing of strategy, which is really important for us to know. Sometimes it's not about changing. Maybe you've not done anything right. It might just be you strategically tweaking on some things, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. And so, please join me in welcoming to the stage Coach Book, and she's going to introduce herself. You know her; she's been here awesome. I will let her have the floor and introduce herself. Thank you, Coach Buki, for joining us.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. I feel very welcome. So, really happy about that. So, the focus of this session is we're going to be looking at stepping into the second half of 2025 with clarity, focus, and precision. And sorry, just adjusting my camera there. I hope it's good. Um, so, a little bit about me for those of you that do not know me. I am the founder of Citadel Coaching, and Citadel Coaching is a firm that specializes in supporting professionals and leaders to rise in their career, overcome limitations, and really lead with impact. And I really enjoyed that. I've been running my company for the last 5 years. But prior to that, I also had a corporate career. So I am a UK trained chartered accountant and chartered tax advisor, and I spent time growing. In my career, I had a 15-year career. I've always been interested in personal development, and even more so when I became a manager, I was really interested in how people grow, how people succeed, and that led me to leave my corporate career to move into the world of coaching, retrain as a coach, and that's what I do now. So absolutely love seeing myself grow, and also really from that insight, from that training, helping others to do the same. So I think we're in for a good treat. I'll encourage you to get a pen, a paper, or wherever you write with your digital device, and just flow with me here. I'm a coach, and if you've ever worked with a coach before, you know one of the things they do very well is they prompt you, they ask you questions that will really help you make things that are important, but maybe you're unconscious too. They help bring it to your consciousness. So there is going to be a lot of questions on my slides, because the reality is we're here to talk about resetting and rising. I don't know what you need to reset in your life, in your career. Only you know. So the best way I can serve you is ask those questions that will prompt you and bring to mind the areas that you need to focus on. So with guidance, with tips, with insights, we will draw out to what is necessary for you to work on for the rest of the year. So I'm delighted. Again, get your pen, paper, a notepad. This is not something you want to listen to passively, right? My hope for you is by the time you're finished, you've gained something for your time. You haven't just wasted your time listening, but you've actually gained something. So give you a few minutes, get your pen and paper. So if you're ready to go, we are going to be discussing. Well, let's start. We're talking about reset and rise, right? Why reset? Why reset? Now, for all of us, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. The reality is there are massive changes going on in the world. Like AI is a big one, but beyond AI, there's so many other changes that are going on. So it's very important to understand where you are, because when we are resetting, what we are really doing is that you're looking at where you are in comparison to where you would like to be, and you are, reestablishing your priorities, you're reestablishing your focus. There have been, like I said, technological changes. There have been, I think, for all of us, right? We hold the inflation with company reorganizations, with tariffs or threat of tariffs, and all these things are going on. It's having both. Is having impact in our organizations, and is also having impact on us. Okay, so whether you are achieving your results or you haven't quite yet achieved the results you want, this is relevant to you, because it doesn't matter. You have to recalibrate from where you are. So what does it actually mean to reset? I think there are two things. You're evaluating your environment, your situation, and your results. All the changes are happening around you, right? How does that now impact the goals that you want to work on and the things you want to achieve? And then also even the things that are happening within you, right? January 1, for all of us, if you're really present, where you were in January 1 is not where you are now, because life is not static. Things are always moving. So what the goals and plans you had on 1 January, if you're really honest and you sit down and reflect on 5th July, how would expect some movement to be in? Like if you're executing your plans, things would have happened. Some things that you assumed would have turned out not to be the same. And so you have to recalibrate. So evaluating your environment, your situation, your personal situation, the results you're getting, the outcomes you're getting, and then using that to really reestablish your focus and strategy and the plan you need to implement so that you continue to make progress. So in talking about this, this session is really split, is split into two. We're going to do the reset and we're going to do the rising afterwards. So let's start with the reset. And I have, I say they have 3 hours for resetting. 3 hours for resetting, and these are reflect, review, replan. Okay. Reflect, review, replan, and we're going to go through all of this in order. Now, so studio, let me know if there are any questions in any of the streams, and I will pause as required to take the questions. But let's get started. So the first how is reflecting. And I think this is the one many of us just do not do enough. When I work with clients as a coach, one of the things, if I can get them to just pause and do more reflections, I think I've done a good job. Because by taking time for reflection alone, they are just going to be more effective. They are going to gain more wisdom. And that is only going to help them to move forward faster. All right. So that's why I put on the slide. The more reflective you are, the more effective and the wiser you become. That is really important. So I want you to think about where you are now. And I'm going to ask you to reflect back for the last 6 months. We're in July 2025. At the start of the year, what goals did you have? What were your intentions for the year? What did you want to achieve? Just bring that to mind, because I want this session for you to be active and for you to participate. So bring your goals to mind. What did you have at the start of the year to achieve? And if you didn't have any tangible set goals or intentions for the year, well, that's the first thing you need to reset on, because for all of us, right? Life is a journey. Your career is a journey. The best journeys have a destination in mind. If you leave your house and you're saying you're going somewhere, right? It's ideal that you have somewhere to go to, like you have a destination in mind, because if you don't have a destination in mind, what's going to happen? Well, you're just going to wander, just going to drift. If you go missing, people won't even know where to look because they had no idea where you were heading. Right. So for a journey, you need a destination in mind, and your life is a journey. Your career is a journey, right? It doesn't mean you're fixed to the journey. It doesn't mean the destination is fixed, but at least you have something that you're heading towards. So if you entered this year with no goals, no particular intentions, I know sometimes the word goals can trigger people. So maybe, it's like, what were your intentions for the year? That's the first thing you need to reset for the next 6 months. Don't just wander into the rest of the year. Have some intentions in mind, something to guide your activities, to guide your time. Otherwise, I always say this: if you don't follow your plan, you are going to follow your plan. You just end up following someone else's plan. If you don't have a plan for your career, guess what? Or any intentions or goals for your career, what you want to do in your professional life, you will end up doing whatever your organization, you follow whatever direction your organization push you in, or maybe the direction the people around you push you in. That's not ideal. You want to lead yourself. And then secondly, think about, yes, not only that you had goals, but also which plans were you executing? Because sometimes, at the start of the year, we all have our goals, what we want to achieve, and then you look back 6 months. Actually, I'm not executing much. There hasn't been much execution. And hey, if you're not executing, how are you going to get results? Right? We don't hope for results. We don't hope for outcomes. We take action, and then we apply hope to our actions, right? So if you had all those plans that you laid out, but you didn't execute, but that's another area that you need to reset going forward. That actually, how well is my execution? So that's reflecting on 1H, right? When I mean by 1H, the first half of the year. And then we also then need to really look forward, right? And before we look forward, because that's what this is in, this is talking about, we are resetting and rising. But before we move forward, assess your current reality as well. I've been hinting at this as I was speaking. Like, where are you headed and why? Very important to think about it, because it's, like I said, it's very important that you have a destination in mind. And we are in this age of distraction. We're in the age of social media, that if you don't sit down to really think about your own destination, you are going to get caught up in all the distractions of the internet. Maybe one day you're looking to do this. The following month, you're looking to do something else. The month after is something else. Why? Because you are consuming so much social media. You're consuming information from so many coaches like me. You're consuming a lot of information from influencers, and you're just going left and right. No set um, destination in mind, continually changing. And we know what they say is the man that is flipping and flopping, the man or woman flipping and flopping, changing their mind regularly, is not heading anywhere, right? So where are you headed and why? And where you are headed, the why is just as important, because you really want whatever it is that you want to do, and the destination you're creating for yourself to be rooted in what is important to you, to be rooted in what you think is going to give you fulfillment, not something shallow, not what is popular, not what makes me look good in front of my peers. Because you're an individual, you want to carve out a plan that really reflects who you are. Okay, that is really, really critical. So the why is very important. Let's say, oh, I want to change career and move into this area, or I want to move into this team. What is driving that? Let it be something internal, let it be something intrinsic, rather than something that is surface level. Or maybe even we decide a destination because, oh, I don't get along with this manager, and so because of that, I'm going to leave the team I'm in. Well, maybe the answer is I need to work on my relationship as opposed to jump and leave. So there's so many things to really think about when you think about so many things to think about when you think about, but so many to think about when you are considering where you want to head to. So equally, reflecting on your current reality, you also want to look at the priorities in this season of life, right? I think a lot of people that are joining, they'll be joining to listen to this because of career, for career reasons, but your career doesn't operate in isolation, right? If other areas of your life are not going well, then your career is probably going to be impacted. So look at your priorities, look at your life holistically. What are your priorities in this season, right? For example, maybe you're in the season where actually the family needs you more than ever, and you need to spend more time at home with your family than pursuing a particular career goal. um, and maybe your health. Maybe you're in a situation where actually your health demands your attention, and prioritizing your career in this season could actually be a disservice. So it's very important. I focus a lot talking about careers, but in my sessions with my clients, we really we take a holistic approach, because life is not just about career. You want to succeed, yes, and you want to do well in your career. But I always say this, more importantly, we're all looking for happiness. We're all looking for fulfillment. So really think deep and understand what are the priorities that what are the priorities that I need to focus on that will lead me in this path of fulfillment. So why are your priorities in this season and why? And I'll say, for example, I have young children, right? I always say this, I would have a different type of business if I didn't have children, because I would have more time, I would have more headspace to dedicate thinking about the business 24/7. But the season of life where I am, my priority is also raising my children and to be present at home. So I can't spend all the hours I would like to spend on my business. I have to balance it. I have to make sure that I am growing in all the areas that are important to me. Giving time to my health is inconvenient, but sometimes inconvenient, but making time for exercise, spending time with the children, and giving enough time to my business as well, because of course I want the business to succeed. But if the business succeeds and other areas don't work out, I know that won't make me happy. So I'm emphasizing this because it's really important as you plan for 2H 2025. The reality is there are going to be some people here where actually, okay, you need to put more effort and focus in your career and for or your business. And for some people, it's like, actually, you know what, this is taking so much of my time, this business and career. But part of my resetting is just having more balance and bringing into focus some other areas of my life that require my attention. Okay, we're in this age where everybody they tell us, all the influencers or people trying to sell courses to you, right? Tell you have to have multiple streams of income, and people marketing courses and how you can start a digital business and all of that. And all of that is fine, right? We all want to create success for ourselves, and it's important that we build wealth. Like financial wealth is one part of wealth, but also let's think about actually what is that going to cost you emotionally? How tasking is that going to be? Because if you have 4 or 5 life projects on and you are busy 24/7, not getting enough rest, well, you might build the business or the financial wealth, but then health wise, you might be poorer in your health. Is that the outcome you want? For most people will say no. So let's build with balance. We're all busier than before. And yeah, let's just really be mindful. I just think this is one that is very important to spend time on. So we've talked about the 3 house. The first one was around reflecting, and I was telling you want to reflect on the last 6 months, the goals that you set, and the plans that you executed. Did you do enough or did you not do enough? And then also reflect on your current reality, right? What should you be focusing on? What are your priorities? And then, so we're going to move on then to talk about the next how, which is all around review. Review. And to review is to evaluate, and to evaluate is to build the foundation for progress, right? If for anything that you measure, you have a chance of improving. If you're not measuring things, right, there you reduce the chances of being able to improve in that area. That's why your organization, they have KPIs, right? They're monitoring progress weekly, monthly, quarterly. But you know why? Because that is part of the way you generate high performance when you are reviewing. So for your life, for your career, you also really want to be reviewing when we're talking about resetting. Because if you're resetting, you need data, and review is all about giving us data. Earlier on, we are reflecting, we're really looking at qualitative measures, like qualitative measures. But when we talk about reviewing, actually, you're getting more quantitative, and you need both. So why are you evaluating? You really want to be looking at what did you want to achieve that you did? What did you want to achieve that you did? Your plans, your goals, how did you do? And then what did you want to achieve that you didn't? Which is very also important. You need both data, right? Life is let's say failure is just an event. And as a matter of fact, you haven't failed until you've given up. And even then, if you give up for the right reasons, because there is no chance of success in something, then that's still good, because you got to a point of realizing actually this is not the plan, this is not the way to success, and you checked out. I would argue that's still a form of success, right? Failure is a person that is going down the wrong path. They know they're going down the wrong path and they continue to go down the wrong path. That's not what we want. So even if you didn't achieve something you set out, know that, and we can get lessons from that. We can get insights from that again. So that's important. Now, so we've talked about reviewing the goals you achieved, the ones you didn't achieve. Now, really talking about your activities, because the way we create results is really through activities, is through what you are doing. So think about the activities that you engage in. What are you involved in that is working, or what is not working? What are you involved in that is working, and what are you involved in that is not working? So give me, I'll share an example. I think there'll be many people here, maybe they have a side also. If you have a career, you're also building a side also, for example. And I'll give you my example. When I started my coaching practice, initially I was on Instagram, and I was sharing posts on Instagram. And I was there for a number of months, and I didn't even get a single inquiry. Like, someone saying, Buki, what is this coaching thing you're doing? No inquiry. Well, just a few likes, people liking the post or commenting. Well, I'm running a business. I'm not running an influencer. I'm not an influencer where I need likes or engagement. That's not what I'm about. I'm in a position where I want to help people in their careers. I want to help people improve the prospects of promotion in their career. So I had to think, actually, what? This Instagram thing is not working for me. And that's how I went to LinkedIn. And then when I got to LinkedIn, well, I saw my people who were interested in careers. Because it turned out that a lot of the people that I had on Instagram, that wasn't their priority. So very important to think about, what are you doing that is not working, so you just don't keep doing it. Even on LinkedIn as well. So let's say you're someone that is looking for a job, right? And you have sent hundreds of applications, and you're not getting, let's say you sent 100 applications and you've only gotten one interview. Well, I would say, actually, maybe you're missing something, because sending 100 applications and getting one interview, that's not a great outcome, right? Because now you have one interview, and that one interview, that's the only one, and that means you have to get that job. And the reality is, you want to line up many interviews, because sometimes it takes some rounds of interview practice for you to actually learn how to interview. So the point is, if you're sending out loads of job applications and you're not getting invited to interview, that is a reason to pause and think, okay, what is happening here? What do I need to change about the way I'm applying? What are they looking for that I'm not including, or what is missing in this? So that will be part of the sort of things that you need to be doing when you talk about resetting. That I'm not getting results in this area. I need to think about, why am I not getting the result? Because I can't just keep doing the same thing. I can't keep going down the same path. That won't work. Okay, so moving on. And I think Dr. Ibikunle, to give you a break, I think we'll maybe take some questions, or any insights or questions that's coming up from what I'm sharing. I'll finish this section, and we can maybe discuss some of the things I've shared already.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good idea. What do you
Oh,
think?
yeah. Somebody posted that simple things and yet deep. Exactly my thoughts. So far, so good. I was taking notes. This is amazing. Thank you so far, Coach Buki. It's been amazing. Trust me. And please, everybody, if you have any question, just put it in the comment section, and we just answer it before we go to the next session. I think this is really good, rather than waiting till the end.
Yes.
Yes. Or you want clarification on something, or if you want our guests to touch more on a particular point, please. I will give you additional 30 seconds to 1 minute. Maybe you, okay.
Yeah, well, go on. I just wanted
Yeah,
to, I think for me, it's really an excuse for me to take a break.
yeah,
So,
and also I have a question. I mean, maybe not really a question. You said
yeah,
something that was really, really profound, that if you set out to do something and you discover that this is not the way to go into it, pause. It's a measure of success, and I totally agree. I totally agree with you. Is that I remember when I was doing my PhD, my supervisor told me, one of them said, "Look, there's no bad results when you do research, because what you will come up with that you've actually added to the body of knowledge, saying that, look, this is a pathway not to go to this direction. I set out to go here. After 3.5 years of research, I couldn't get there. Meaning, you have not failed. You have told people, look, this is not the way to get to this place.
Yeah.
So, and that's really good. And I had one of the people I listened to say that we pick up a book and you are reading, you get to about 25% of it. Then you discover that it's not helping you in what you want. Drop it.
Yeah.
Don't see yourself as failure. He said some people will stick to it. That I want to make sure that my goal is when I take a book, I read it. So I was going to ask, is there uh, any example you can share with us, maybe especially in career, for people that at what point, for example, people, you are on a project, you are working for a company, at that point in your career, and say, man, this company, though I'm getting my pay here, this is, I'm not going to be able to achieve my, because some people say, oh, I say, do you want to say anything around that, please?
Yeah, I think we all have to be. I mean, it's natural, isn't it? Comfort. So if you work for a company for a long time, number one, it's going to be familiar, it's going to be comfortable, right? But if it's not going to get you to where you want to get to, and you've done everything within your power, I would encourage people, you know, I remember when early on in my career, someone had advised me that if you have a problem somewhere, try to fix it in that place. Because if you go, in case the problem is you, because if you go somewhere else, you're going to carry the problem with you. So you want to fix it there. So I think that's what, if you're in a position, in a place, and your career isn't going the way you want, you want to be having conversations with your leaders and trying to understand what are their expectations, and what part of their expectations are you not meeting. And so you want to be clear that you want to satisfy yourself that you've done all you can and you've gained all the lessons that you can from there. But don't stick around because it's comfortable, because at the end of the day, eventually people will stick around and regret it. I remember when someone sent me a message. I shared a post on LinkedIn, and and a man shared a message with me, responded privately and said, oh, he wish he had um, read the things I shared. So I talked about moving on and not hanging around for too long if you're not getting what you want. And he said, oh, he wish he had read it like 10 years ago, because now that he's in his 50s, it feels like it's too late for him. Now, I'm sure many of the people here are way on the, you're not in your 50s, people listening to me. So you don't want regret, right? The only way we can prevent regret is if we maximize today. Do whatever you within your power to optimize and maximize your experience for today. So yes, you want to be resilient, you want to do all you can, but sometimes you get the sign that actually, no, this is not the place that I need to move on. I mean, one of the organizations I moved on from, it was because it was going to be, I'd returned from maternity leave, and it was going to take me a longer time to get promoted, just because the dynamics of the team had changed, and I have to stay there just a little longer to get the promotion that I wanted, and I wasn't willing to stay. So like, you know what? I'm not ready to wait this number of months. I can go out into the market and get the promotion that I want
That's it.
now.
That's it.
And I actually thought, so when I left the organization, it was fine. My plan was I was going to come back. That let me just go and get experience, get the pay rise I need, and then I'll come back in a few years, because I did like the team that I was in. But it turned out actually, there were other plans that I pursued. So leave when you have. Don't be married to any organization, because no organization is married to you.
Thank you so much. And we have thank you so much. That we have other questions here. There's one on the screen if you can see. I have
Yes.
3 questions for you.
What are some
So
parameters? Yeah, what are some parameters to reflect on to be sure a side hustle is working? So that's a good one. So if you think about whether you call it a side hustle or anything, a side hustle is a business. So fundamentally, if you're in a business, then it has to be that you are solving a problem that people want to solve for the amount you want to charge. So you're solving a problem, a real problem that people are willing to pay money to solve, and they're willing to pay the money that it makes sense for you to earn. And I think taking that approach really, really helps, because sometimes we can have ideas and things that we want to do, and people are just not willing to pay money for that thing. Because otherwise, what you would then have is really an expensive hobby, or you'll be in a situation where you are cajoling people. to pay for your services, and that's not sustainable. That will wear you out. You see all of these, big companies. How did they make it? Isn't it? It's because they're selling. Apple is not begging you to come and buy their iPhone. Netflix is not begging you to come and subscribe, right? They are providing you a service that is that you want, and therefore you willingly give your money. Sometimes you don't even want to give your money, but you need the services so much that you give your money. And I think that takes time. That takes what they call it, a process, testing stuff. But ultimately, that's a sign of a good business where you're solving a problem that people want to solve. There are people, there's so many problems that people are not that they're not that interested in solving. Yes, they know it's a problem, but they're not really. Let's take a classic one like weight loss. There's so many people that would want to lose weight, but how many people would pay you to help them to lose weight? Now, there's some people that will pay. So if let's say you want to run a weight loss business, then you want to really target people who are willing to invest in weight loss, who have a weight loss problem and it's critical to them. So an example would be actually, if you target, you're helping diabetics to lose weight. Now that is really more specific. That might be helpful because one of the ways to control diabetes is to lose weight. But if you're just speaking generally, it might be harder. Or let's say you're helping, you can make it also maybe more specific, like you're helping people who want to get married, maybe like to lose weight. So the point I'm making is for a side hustle to work, you want something that a problem that people actually want to pay to solve. And the second thing is if it's a side hustle, then it also depends on how demanding your job is. So you want to embark if the side hustle is taking so much of your time and it's not giving enough income yet, then what will happen is your career will suffer.
Thank you
And if
so
your
much.
career is the main source of income, that's not helpful.
Excellent. I think we actually, David, I was just listening when you were speaking. I was remembering most of the things we learned in business school. Thank you so much. At
Okay.
least now you're
All right.
having two for one now. Now we have another question on the screen, and then one more. Then we go back to our your slide here. So.
So, any suggestions when reevaluating a career change after a life period to care for a loved one and looking for your next path? Yeah, I think that's another wonderful question. So, I think one of the things that will be important here is to look at your priorities, right? Um, so let me because if you're still caring for your loved ones, then it might be that some jobs are available or convenient for you to do, and others are inconvenient. So what comes to my mind is that is a point where you really have to be clear on your priorities and the sacrifices you might need to make, because maybe your number one career desire or the career area you would want to go into may not be conducive for the life that you now have to manage, in which case you may have to go for another option. And I think that's fine. If your first option is not available because you're caring for a loved one that matters to you, I think there's nothing wrong personally, because life is all about sacrificing. You have to sacrifice something that is of less importance to you for one that is of greater importance. So that's how we'll go about it. So think about what time do you need, what mental space do you need, and what are the sort of jobs that will allow you to do that, and what do you have interest in. But from that question, I just envisage there's going to be some sort of sacrifice and juggling, and just put yourself out there. And yeah, I wish you the best.
Thank you so much. And the last question before we go back to the session is from Bridget.
Yeah, how can we ensure that we don't get overwhelmed or carried away by so many opportunities? Priorities. That's where we were talking about in the first thing, that if you really need to reset, you have to establish your priorities now. So I guess maybe a lot of your audience, maybe I think we have a wide range of people listening to us,
Yeah,
right?
we do.
So for example, let's say you're a student doing your masters and you've taken a break from your job. What opportunities can you explore? Well, depending on how many hours you have available to invest in this, and how demanding your studies are. And equally, if you're someone that is in a role, let's say you have caring responsibilities or you have young children, let's say, working parents with young children will have a different working parents with young children compared to working parents with teenagers or working parents with adult children. Those are like three different scenarios. You have different timing, what do you call it, different capacity to do different things. So how do you ensure you don't get overwhelmed? Is really by being practical and being realistic about what is right for you. I'll give you my own example. I said it earlier, right? The way I run my business, I tend to work from 9 to 3 during the day. And that means so that, I can drop my children in school by night, and then get back and start work at 9 o'clock. And then 3 o'clock, I finish and to go and pick up my children. And then in the evening, again, I will do some late coaching around 7:30, 8 p.m. If I have clients and if I'm able to, I will do coaching. So between the hours of 3 and 7, I'm really not available for client work because that's the time that I'm doing chores at home. Now, I could, in the early days of my business, I would book coaching calls around 4, 5 o'clock. So I've got children in the background, and it was stressful, right? So that was when I stopped that. No, actually, I'm going to stop work at 3 o'clock. While my children are back from school, I can spend time with them, and then if I need to coach, I'll coach alone in the evening. Now, what does that mean? There's some clients that I may not be able to get because they're only available to coach. They know their availabilities are 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. when I'm not available to coach at that time. So it means I lose those opportunities. But I'm not really losing those opportunities. They're just not for me because it doesn't suit the life I want. So that's what I mean by when people get overwhelmed, it's because they're really not paying enough attention to their own interest and to their capacity. So you have to be really intentional, be very clear, and pay attention to that. And then you learn to say no, or you learn to say not yet, right? There's so many ideas I have for my business. I cannot do it now. But you know what? In a few years, I'll be able to pursue that. So that's what I would say to that. I hope that answers that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Coach Buki. I would really appreciate that. Like, write down your questions as we go along. We're going to the other part of the session, then we'll take the questions later. Thank you so much. Yeah, you are back now.
Okay. So we're going back to the tree house for resetting. So we've talked about reflecting, we've talked about reviewing. The third one, the third R is replan. And when we're talking about replan, I think I said something along these lines earlier, that life isn't static. So our plans shouldn't be either. For all of us, I think AI has taken for the last year, the AI has really, really blown up. It was going to continue to blow up, like big changes are expected. And where your organization is changing, your industry is changing, whether you're aware or not. So um, how are you rejigging your home plan to take into account the reality now? Because if you're still planning, if you're not, I think for anybody, if you're not incorporating AI into your thinking, when you're thinking about your career, I'm thinking about what is AI going to take over? Or what might AI take over, and how do I need to reposition myself? I tell you, when I started my career, obviously AI wasn't there. It wasn't there, but it was in the other period where many large organizations were offshoring, and they were outsourcing some key services. One of the decisions I took was to intentionally move my career in a direction where my job couldn't be outsourced. They couldn't send it to Asia, Malaysia, India, or somewhere, because that was the way that I just protected my role. I leaned into an area that would always be in demand. As I said earlier, that I'm a tax accountant, and a lot of work I did was around really working with listed companies with their tax accounts, ensuring that their tax filings, they would be the tax and what the accounts that they submitted to they were reporting to the markets, whether it's wherever they're listed, whichever stock exchange they're listed, the financial statements were accurate. Now, for each of those accounts, you need someone really you need for a UK listed company, well, you need people in the UK to actually sign up those accounts. And so I leaned into that, whereas those work couldn't be outsourced. I think things are a little bit different now. But then those work were not outsourced. There were people physically that would really need to go into these offices and do the tax work that was related for those companies. So really think about AI. How is it going to impact you? Don't bury your head in the sand, because life isn't static, so your plans must not be. Now, when we talk about replanning, really we're going looking forward, isn't it? We've reflected around, what's been happening. We've reviewed where we are, our activities. So now replanning is really around going forward. And if you're replanning, these are some of three areas that will have to change. You're going to have to look at your thinking, your to-dos, which are your activities, and your time. These are the three things that we really use to get results. So let's start with the first one. We really have to think, as a man thinketh, so easy. Your life cannot go further than the quality of your thoughts, right? And when it comes to the quality of your thought as well, your life really cannot, you cannot go further than the quality of your approach to problem solving. So you really have to think about, what's my approach to problem solving? Am I the one that panics, or am I actually intentionally, when problems come, do I go into panic state, or am I intentionally using it to develop my muscle of critical thinking, my muscle of resolving issues wisely? This is really important, because it doesn't matter what you do, challenges are constant, change is constant, and things like conflict are constant. So there will always be problems to solve. There will always be things to really pay attention to. There will be things that will challenge there'll be things that will challenge your capacity, that will challenge what you know. So what is your approach to problem solving? And intentionally grow in those areas. And also, what dominates your thinking? And this is really important. As a man thinketh, so easy. So if you think about how you think, right? Are you someone where when things come up, are you strategizing, or are you stressing over it? Right? Strategizing is, okay, this has come up. I don't know what to do. What do I need to do? You're asking the questions. What do I need to do? You're asking questions. What do I need to do? Who can help? That is very different from really kind of like shutting down, going into panic mode. So you need to reset your thinking around that. And if you look back, you will really be able to self-assess. This is really around self-assessment, right? In resetting your thinking, think about, when I'm approaching problems, am I strategizing, or am I stressing? The other point is, are you creating, or are you competing? Now, this is very important, because many of us are spending time on social media, and we know that really social media is highly curated. And what that means is that everyone is showing their best self, right? Everyone is showing their best self. And if that is what is determining your approach, determining what you are, determining the steps that you're taking, or how you're thinking, then you are not setting yourself up for the best outcomes. We are creators. Your best ideas and your best thinking is going to be self-generated. So think about, am I creating or competing? So creating means that you're going within you to determine what you need to do, not looking at what is popular, what will look good, or what is trending. No, that wouldn't help. And I think in this age of social media, it's really important that you really tap into your own creativity. And someone shared earlier around, how do you evaluate a side hustle? I think a good side also is one that really solves a problem. It solves a real problem. And if you're going to solve a problem that exists, that is really all around creating, right? You have to tap into your creativity. And then the final point around here is faith or fear, right? What we're talking about here, what is dominant? What is the dominant thought patterns that you have? And we are always, all of us, I've put some distinctions on the slides, and all of us will be leaning into the left side or the right side. Are you strategize? Are you someone that is actually strategizing? Do you stress over issues? Are you someone that actually, you're creative? Things come up, you're checking in with yourself, what's the right thing to do here, and you are creating your own solutions, or you have there competing, right? Or yeah, let me leave that there. And then the final one, are you in faith or fear, right? And I always say these are choices. We have to discipline ourselves to learn to think the right way. Unfortunately, in school, I don't know, maybe Dr. Kunle had thinking classes in business school. But I know all through my studies, I never attended a class on how to think. Like, often they told us what to think, right? Education just dumps knowledge on you and tells you what you're supposed to think. But really, if you're going to be great, if you're going to be a trailblazer, if you're going to be someone that brings new solutions to market, and I believe all of us here are capable of it, well, you are going to have to be someone that really makes time to think right, to learn how to think, that the problems are around you, how do I solve it? So that is really important. Reset your thinking, because if we don't change our thinking and if we are not proactively upgrading our thinking, we repeat patterns. We repeat patterns. They often talk about things like, oh, maybe generational, oh, this issue runs on the family, or there's this generational pattern. And often it's just a generational pattern of thinking, right? And if I always encourage people, you look at the patterns in your family that you don't like and be the one to break it. If there's a lot of poverty, or there's a lot of whatever issues, it's because there are thoughts that are fueling those outcomes. So how are you going to think differently? And not just don't just rely on your formal education, because formal education, I'm highly educated. I have a lot of degrees, not as much as Dr. Ibikunle. I don't know if you've seen all the letters after his name on LinkedIn. Pretty impressive. So no, I don't have that many degrees, but I know there are limitations to formal education. And I think the real education starts when you start identifying what are the gaps in my own life, what's missing for me, and really start closing it. And I think so. Resetting your thinking around these areas. Are you someone that strategizes, that's creative, and is living in faith? Are you being dominated by fear? What could go wrong? Or you're dominated by competing with other people, not knowing actually create your own. I'm a coach, and all of these things that I have done, I'm sharing with you. This has all come from my brain. I'm not getting the insights from anywhere else. But why am I able to pull out all of these insights? Because I spend time thinking about this. I spend time birthing my creativity, using the training and all the insights that I've gotten over the years to actually create trainings and programs that will help people create change. I remember one time I was watching a YouTube video for a business coach, and the video said, oh, if you want to, if you're a business owner, every week dedicate some time that you're looking at your competitors' website and you're studying what they're doing. And I just turned it off. That is not in my view, a smart way to build a business, where you are just consumed with what your competitors are doing. You need to be focusing on your customers, on the market, on the problem you want to solve, and finding ways that you are going to solve it. So not so much, so studying ways to bring solutions to yourself. So I'm talking about business, but it's the same thing with your career. If you're in your workplace, you're not all the time looking at what Alex is doing or what Sandra is doing and how you can replicate that. No, you want to be looking at, okay, what is important? What is important to my stakeholders? What's important to my leaders? How can I please them? This is really, really important, really tapping into your own creativity to solve problems. Because remember, whether you're at work, you're in business, wherever you are, you're meant to be a solution provider. You cannot bring your best solutions if you're leaning to the right side of stressing, competing with people, and living in fear. Okay, I really want to labor this point, because how to think is not something we are taught, but it's so important that you want to be leaning to the left side and really helping yourself to stay on that left side, because that's where your best ideas and your best solutions are going to come from. So moving on, so we're talking about replanning. I've spent a lot of time talking about thinking, really around how to think, not what to think. A lot of time you've been told what to think, but you've got to sit down and really think about how to think. And then you're going to look at your activities, right? What are some of the things that you're doing? Are you busy or productive? Oh God, it's so easy to be busy these days, isn't it? It's so easy to be busy. Even the person that is unemployed is busy, right? Because it's harder to get a job now, so you have to send a lot more application. So you can be actually just be busy sending hundreds of applications every week. But you gotta ask yourself, is my business productive? Is my business productive? Because how do you know whether you're productive? I think progress is the proof of productivity. Are you making progress? If you're not making progress, then you really have to challenge whether you're productive. Now, again, I'm talking about progress. It doesn't mean results. Let's say you just started building the business. I'm in year 5 of my business now. Now, the results I'm getting in year 5 is very different from what I was getting in year 1. Equally from you as well. Like, let's say you're in year 5 of your career, is different. The results you're going to get is going to be different from year 1. In year 15 of your career is very different from the results you're getting in year 10. Or at least it should be different, because from experience you should have gotten better. So it's not necessarily the end goal of just getting results. Sometimes it's just progress. You are making progress. So in year 2 of your business, you're further down the line than you were in year 1. Year 10, you're further down the line. You may not have hit the big jackpots where you thought you were going to be, but you are making progress. So progress is a proof of productivity. And in this light, I really want you to be mindful of the 80-20 rule. So some of you might have heard of Pareto, the Pareto's principle, and it's around the fact that really many times it is 20% of our effort, of our activity is what is actually creating 80% of our results. So it's a broad principle. It could be 90-10, it could be 70-30, but the reality is if you analyze your activities, you might realize that actually I'm spending a lot of time, but it's actually the things, only 20% of what I'm doing is responsible for the results, for more than 80% of my results, for example. So review your activities. So let's say a work for us, a work for doing well at work, performing a standard. You have to be, you have to do the job. But if you realize that actually doing the job is just the minimum, am I building relationships? You realize actually my real success comes from the relationships. It comes from the time that I'm making to have the coffee chats. It comes from the time that I'm making to book the one-to-ones. Because in those meetings, I'm hearing information that I wasn't aware of. In those meetings, people are understanding my needs a bit better and sharing information that would really help me progress. So very important for you to really review your activities and making sure that you are spending time where it's needed, or you're spending time on the things that will give you the greatest results. So for example, if you run, and I'll give you, this is a real example. A lot of my examples now are coming from business, but also I've shared the one about career, that you can't spend all the time working. You will invest in relationships, and you realize actually that 20% time or wherever it is that you invest in relationships is a real game changer. We talked about side hustles earlier. So now it might be, people might say, oh, if you want clients, be posting online, post online, post online. You see a lot of people that are sharing posts online about business. They are not actually getting leads. They are not making progress, because really, again, business is all down to relationships. So if you're just posting online and you're not building relationships with real people, I think you're going to struggle to get business to come to you. So you've got to find a way, because business is really around someone trusting you to solve their problem. Yes, they might see you online, but many people can see you online and just, does that happen to you? There's so many times where I stroll, I'm on LinkedIn or anywhere else, LinkedIn mainly, I scroll and think, oh, I'm going to come back to that thing. And I forget, I don't come back to it. So the point I'm making is that it's not just about um, doing what everyone is doing. You've got to find out what's actually working. So if you're someone here that's trying to grow business, I'll give you this tip as someone that runs a business. You've got to invest in actually connecting with people offline. Yes, you might meet people online, but talk to them offline. Find ways of connecting. Have meetings with people. Let people get to know you. Because then when there's an opportunity for whatever service you're providing, they can remember to bring you in. If you're just relying on posting that one day, well, it's not, it may not work. And I said that as someone that I'm obviously run a business, I'm active on LinkedIn, but people think it's all about social media activity. No, business is human to human, so make time to spend time with humans. So that's one example of the 80-20 rule. If you spend 80% of your time posting or doing other online activities, and you spend 20% of the time spending time with people, and you realize that 20% time with people is what creates the change. So apply the Pareto principle to whatever it is you're doing. Your job searching, the old relationship thing. And I guess a lot of the people I'm speaking to will be from African backgrounds. We were raised to value education. We were raised to value studying, and that is good. But the reality is, these relationships matter a lot. Um, Relationships matter a lot. Okay, so don't just be collecting the degrees. Spend time with people. Spend time connecting with others, because you realize that it's going to be really impact you. I spent a lot of time talking about that because it's important, and it's one that we can easily overlook. Right. So the final T is around time. Okay. Life is time, and time is life. The key thing is, I mean, this is a challenge I give to myself, is really understanding what are you getting in exchange for your time. Is currency, right? Money, you take money to the shop, you buy some goods, your groceries, your clothes, whatever it is, it's currency. So it's time, right? There are people, listen to this, you're spending time listening to this. At the end of it, what are you walking away with? You've exchanged your time for some insights, hopefully, some tips, and some ideas that have come to you as I've been sharing. So it's very important to make sure that you are exchanging your time for what is valuable, right? I don't know, you work 7-8 hours a day or 9 hours. If you get home in the evenings, how are you spending your evenings? Because someone can use their evenings to spend like quality time with their children. What will be the outcome of that? Like really stronger relationships with their children. Or you spend the evenings just, I don't know, maybe in front of the TV. If you're just watching random things, yes, you still get something for your time. Maybe at the end of it, maybe you're more relaxed. And that's good if that is what you need. But the invitation here to you, everyone listening, is if you're going to rise in the second half of the year, if you're going to get different results, then there's going to be a requirement to consider whether how you're using your time needs to change, whether what you're exchanging your time for is actually what you need in this season. Think about the priorities we talked about earlier on, setting your priorities, how you're spending your time. Is it reflecting what is priority to you? Because if it's not reflecting it, then there's not going to be results. So really important to think about that. So we've talked about resetting. So I've talked about the 3 house for resetting. We've talked about really reflecting on what's happening what's happened in the past, what's happening now, the qualitative aspect. We've talked about reviewing, which is more of the qualitative aspect, and now we've also talked about a replanning, which is really looking forward. So we've covered the 3 dimensions of life: what's gone, what's present, and what is to come. Now, I'm going to move on to talk about and then we'll take questions. I'll do this really briefly, and then we'll take questions around if you're moving from reset to rising, right? So the whole idea when you reset is that you then rise. You do things differently, you start getting different results. So these are some tips that I have for you. That if you're really going to get different results, there are a few things that come into play. I think tools are important, starting with number one. And tools are really, these insights I'm giving you, that's a tool that you can use, right? There's some questions here that I have asked in this slides. If so, if you settle down with it and answer these questions really thoroughly, then you are going to get some insights that will help you to move forward. So tools include insights, they include frameworks in all my, in my coaching sessions, in my coaching programs. That's why I give people all the things I've talked about. I give them frameworks to actually execute on it, because all these ideas are fine. Execution is what really matters. So for tips, you're setting clear intentions, right? So we've moved on to the next slide. You're setting clear intentions on what does the next half of the year, what do you want it to look like, right? Because if there's no destination, how will you know when you get there? That's where really set some clear intentions around where you want to achieve. That would be your guide. And then talk about then whatever intentions that you set, you're going to need some guidance. You're going to need some ideas of what to do, right? For me personally, one of the things I have learned now, one of the things I don't do is do things by common sense. When I started my business, obviously I went to coaching school, I got the coach training, and I just thought, okay, well, let me start business. And let me start, the ideas I had were horrible. The things that we're doing were not I already told you. For example, I was on Instagram posting. It turned out that was a waste of time. So I wasted some months there because that was not the right place to do. But why did I do that? Because I was using common sense. Now in year 5, year 6 of my business, I don't do things by common sense. If I need anything to do, I'm like, okay, what is the information I need there? What is the education I need there? Who can educate me? Where can I go to educate? And if it's beyond me, I'm like, okay, who can I pay to help me? Sometimes you use money to buy progress, right? So tools is really around getting guidance from the people who know, who are further ahead than you. Don't just use common sense. So many times I speak to people, things are not happening. For example, they're applying for jobs, they're not getting through, and they're carrying on the same path. Like, well, what are you going to do differently? What is different between your application number 1 and our application 200? There should be massive difference, right? If you still same old, you have to ask yourself, really, am I really setting myself up for success? So when it comes to tools, you're looking at people, you're looking at frameworks that you can use to move you closer. And then you have to monitor your progress, because if you're not monitoring things, how will you know that you're making forward? So monitoring is really important. And the final one is execute. And sometimes this is where I shared earlier around how you think really matters. Executing your strategies, not stressing about what is not going to work. Really, tapping into your creativity to solve problems, not looking around like, what other people do, what are other people doing, what's popular. All of those are distractions. They stop you from executing. And then also, really, you have a real strategy and you're applying hope to that. You're having it, you're believing, right? Because faith is important. No one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. You have all of this strategy. You put together your best strategy, not based on common sense, but based on your educated sense. But after you've done all of that, what do you then need to add to it? You need to add faith to it, because that's the non-physical element, right? And if you don't have that, and the reality is faith, everyone has to have faith, right? You're connected because you had faith that the internet was going to work for you. So, but in our situation, when we were going after our goals and dreams, we have to choose faith. We have to do all the physical things, strategize, get the help, know what we're doing. But then at the end of it, have faith, believe things will work out. So those are some tips. But if there's anything I'm really going to have, they're all important. Get the intentions, get the tools that you need to materialize and actually execute correctly. Then execute and then monitor your progress. And then these are just some general things around rising. But let's say when I talk about the 6 C's, I'm really thinking it's really a summary of all I've shared. You want to think about being very clear around what you want to do. Be very clear on what you need to do. Build your capacity for it. Build confidence. Build and work on your communication and work on how you resolve conflict. Because when there are problems, when you're moving from point A to point B, you're going to come across problems. And there are a few ways that you can. I just wanted to talk about this lightly. I didn't really want to talk about this in so much detail, but hopefully that is the 6 C's are a summary of all the stuff that I have shared. But hey, when it comes to resetting and re-rising, I think there's some questions that have come in, and I'd like to take those questions. So when it comes to reset and rising in the second half of 2025, look at where you want to be and where you are now. Very important to evaluate what has gotten you here, right? What has worked, what has not worked. That is important. That's what you need to reset. And then set your intentions for the rest half of the year and use all these insights, tips, and tools that I've shared with you. My purpose today was really to just prompt your thinking and open your mind to things that they can be basic. They say like the real, what is there's a phrase that say the best things in life are simple. If it's complicated, then no, you don't need complication to move from point A to point B. There's some simple steps you take to be taken, but many of us will miss the simplicity of things and we complicate things. And for example, someone is not getting a job because or someone they go, and this is one that's happened frequently. Oh, I'm going to interviews, I'm not getting through. And then the next thing they say is, oh, actually, you know what? I think I need another qualification. And they go because they think that qualification will then help make them more marketable. But actually, there are people that are doing the same job with less qualifications than they already have. What they needed to do was just really invest in themselves, like in financing how they come across, how they answer questions, and all of that. And that would even cost them less than the cost of a qualification. But because of her socialization, our upbringing, we learn so much on just acquiring qualifications. You find yourself actually you're getting this qualification. Yes, it makes a little bit of you may or may not make that much of a difference, but if you're invested the same amount in financing your delivery, your approach, it might have actually helped you like further along. So that's just some thoughts, because I know as Africans, we tend to lean into qualifications, and let's face it, many of our white counterparts don't have as much qualification as us. And then they end up being our boss at work, and we get to work and realize, I don't even understand, why is this person being my boss? I know more than them. But yes, you may know more technically than them, but the skills that the West love or they reward, leadership skills, presentation skills, communication skills, they are much stronger in it. And it's not because you don't speak English well. Your English is perfect, right? Your English is good, but your words don't land the same way. And I think these are some of the gaps that we need to close. I've seen it over and over that when we work on really improving ourselves, confidence, especially, as Africans, many of us can really suffer from confidence issues, which is because we're good where we were. We've relocated into this country. We're in a new environment. There are challenges. We may be facing discrimination, racism, and all of those things that can really, really quench your spirit. But in those circumstances, I really invite you to really don't allow it to knock your confidence. Don't allow it to knock your fighting spirit. Find what is missing for you and invest in yourself, invest in coaching, invest in mentoring, invest in paid programs. Don't just be asking for free advice, and don't just think you can be looking at tips on LinkedIn. It's very different when you in fact when you read tips on LinkedIn than when you actually invest in someone to support you in a coaching program, a group program, a one-to-one. So I know this is an area that we don't really talk much about, but it's really, really important. Investing in yourself, not just in qualifications, but in financing how you come across, your leadership skills, those softs. They call them soft skills, but I prefer to call them non-technical skills, because really they're really they're the game changer when we're working in the West. The technical skills are a given, and I think for the vast majority of the people that are listening to me is not your technical skills you need to improve on. It may be, let's say you're going for a job and you're not getting through. It will be how you interview. It will be at work, if you're not getting promoted, it will be like, oh, how are you building relationships? How are you connecting with your colleagues? How are you showcasing your work? How are you leading conversations? How are you demonstrating that you can operate at that next level you want? How are you managing difficult conversations when you need to really call people to order? So those are the real things that are going to be game changers. So I'm going to pause there and give us 15 minutes to go through questions or any other thing that we need to go through. Please share my contact details. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. So follow me on LinkedIn. I would also like to pull together, I haven't done this yet, some of these questions that I've listed here. I would pull it together and send it as an, yeah, happy to send a PDF. If you want that, just message me on LinkedIn and share your email address, and we'll get back to you at some point next week. We haven't done it yet, but I think it might be a good idea to put these questions together and share it with people. So you can go on my website. I think if you share the next page of the slides, okay, actually there is on there. You can subscribe to my newsletter. All the things I've shared there, I share tips like this regularly, weekly, on my in my newsletter. You can follow me on LinkedIn. And yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me. And we can answer some questions. I believe some questions have come in. Okay, Dr. Ibikunle.
Just appreciate Coach Buki. Please, whatever you can do, maybe say thank you or do a emojis. This has been awesome. This has been awesome. Thank you so much, Coach Buki. Like we know that she's coming back based on popular demand, and I'm telling you, it's amazing. And there's so many things you said there. One of the things that stuck with me, which I can actually, I'm a life testimony, is when you're talking about the Pareto principle.
Yeah.
By the grace of God, when it comes to qualifications, technical skill, I do have them. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you for facts, my first job, oh my God, I realized that have technical skills, have qualification, they can only take you far. They can't take you so far. I realized earlier in my career, that things that take you far are they are in the 20%. I remember there was a point in my career, I was probably very educated. I went to my BCML, the leader of my team. I said, look, what can I do? When you come in qualification, it's not a problem. What can I do to sit at some location stage, be at some stages in my career? And he told me 3 things. I said, oh, really? Though some of the things he told me, I realized that to achieve them, I need to study more. Now, if you need to gain a technical skill, if it's coming based on the gap you have identified, fine. Not because I'm not getting job, let me do masters. I've seen a lot. I mentor as well. I've seen a lot of people, they go back to PhD, and I told them, you have 2 masters, you couldn't get a job, you think PhD you get a job. By the time you come out after 5 years, you are farther away from realizing your dream of getting a job. And these are people I coach. I see them, and exactly what I said to them 5-6 years ago is happening to them. I met one of them recently. After like 6 years, he saw me at the train station. I said, oh, doctor, I have my resume here. I said, really? We have this conversation about 6 years ago. He's still carrying his resume after PhD. Yeah. So it is not about doing more. It's about being strategic, filling the gap. I tell you, those soft skills I learned about. One of the things he told me that you need to understand how we make money as an organization.
Yeah.
How do we make money? What does gross margin mean? Right? I say, really? Oh, and I say, really? Yeah. And I started doing that. That was one of those things I put together. And I also learned how to get to deliver a better product to our client. Okay. I realized that I need to have a kind of business centric engineering deliverable rather than just being technical. Yeah. I put all these things into consideration. And I tell you, and many of you might know my story. I was promoted to a position that needs about 15 years to get to in 6 years. Yeah. the last, yes, I checked the record in the industry, in my company, it takes about 12 to 15 years to get to that point. In 6 years, I got there because this is common with many people from our or from our where we came from. It is not about doing more, it's about being strategic, networking. I tell you, I started my company recently. The first two major jobs that is giving me over 250,000 were for two connections, two networks.
Yeah.
Two networks. It's just two people. And these people are my mentees. They are not like they are my mentee. They linked me to somebody. And in the next 1 year or so, from those two links, we can be netting about 250,000. If we analyze it. So it's about network relationship, not technical skill. These are very, very important. And I can tell you for far because I have technical skills. But I realize that I'll tell you an example. I'm currently hiring for a business development specialist in my company. The first round went through. I had over 50 qualifications. Those people that I shortlisted, four of them, okay, four of them. Two of them only had high school diploma. And this, I look at it, I was surprised. How can you have high diploma? I saw the roles they've done in their career, the number of positions they have held, the number. I said, how did this happen? It's not about, and I saw people from my clan with a lot of CCCP, ACC, you can think all of them. And when I look at that, when I interview these people, I realize that upon their this thing, they have built a lot of what we call human capital, relationship. And the salary they were asking, I said, with the salary you're asking for, and forget it. That is what they are getting from where they're coming from. So please, our people, let's get this. I don't want to overflog that, but it's really, thank you, Coach Buki. This is really, really very important and it's dear to my heart. Now, questions.
Yeah, the other thing I would say, you've mentioned that element is also investing in yourself, and I think I'm sure over the time you probably invested in mentors and stuff. I find that a lot of people, they will not invest in coaching. I mean, there's a particular person that comes to my mind, like for about 3 years, like they've been looking for a job, and they came to me and said, "Oh, can you do interview coaching for me?" And I gave them like a brief session for free. It's valuable. Like, oh, this is valuable. Well, if you want more, you're gonna have to pay. And it was like, okay, they didn't want to pay. And then a year later, they came back, and guess what? They're still looking for a job.
Yeah.
Now, year three, earlier this year, they contacted me again. They're still looking for a job. So, and it's like, doesn't it? This is not the money I'm going to make, the money I'm going to charge. And like any other coach, it's going to be a fraction of your monthly salary. Really, probably even lower than 20% of your monthly salary. But actually parting with that money hurts people because they think they will do it for free. But if your way is not working, you've got to try another way. That's just what my encouragement would be. And I know this is unfamiliar ground territory for all of us, that investing in help, you want to rely on a lot of people to help you for free. That's fine. And I think obviously go for free. I have free people that I speak to, but I know if I really want change quickly, then I need to go for the highest quality service that I can get, and often that requires me parting with some funds. So I just want to add that because I think
Thank you. Yeah, there's a price to pay for everything. That's it. That what makes the difference is the price to pay. Yeah, and that's it. That's what makes the difference. The price and sometimes the price it might not be monetary. It might be additional time.
Yeah.
It might be stepping out of your comfort zone and all this, but there's definitely a price to pay. So we have a question from Pa. Yeah, and it says people have the perception that coach is only for executives. What is the place of coaching for those starting up in their career or in mid-level? I have other questions.
Yeah, that's a great question. So executive coaching, how I define it, is around coaching individuals to be effective within organizations. Executive coaching is different from life coaching. Life coaching, you're coaching someone about their personal life. Executive coaching is around coaching people to be effective in organizations. So it's not just for executives. It could be for someone starting mid-level, wherever. What would happen if for someone starting, it would be around career coaching, effectiveness coaching, helping them to be effective in the environment they're in. So no, I think that's just a myth. And I think because traditionally, organizations, the people they've paid they've invested in coaching for as being their senior executives. I think the best analogy, everyone should have a coach, whether you're paying one or the other. If you think about a sports person, an athlete, there is no top class athlete, even low class athlete, that won't have a coach, right? It's just that the standard of a coach might be different, because a coach helps you get better. A coach refines you. If you really go to, if you go to a good church, even your pastor can be a really effective coach if they're really challenging your thinking and helping you. So if you get an executive coach, what you're saying is that you just want to learn and be more effective within organizations. So it's definitely not just for executives. But obviously, if you're starting out in your career, the challenges you will have will be different from someone at a more senior level. So what we'll be talking about in the coaching sessions will be very different. Are you a manager? Are you a senior leader? Are you a senior executive? I coach all of them, but the matters we talk about are just different based on their own situation. So hope
Yes.
that answers that.
Thank
Um,
you. So I have another question up here for you.
how
How
can Yeah. How can I stay resilient and motivated when progress feels slow? Yeah, I think that's a natural, human reaction or human emotion to feel maybe demotivated. But I think what you have to do is just reconnect yourself with your goal, reconnect yourself with the outcome that you want. Um, nobody said it was going to be easy, right? If you're doing anything that is worth it, that anything what anything significant, then it is going to be challenging. And also, this is one thing I've learned that really keeps me going, is that really the joy is in the process. Yes, you want to get to the result, but it's really around who you're becoming. So in the moments of slow progress, you're working on your character. It's teaching you patience. Maybe it's even teaching you empathy. It's refining you. So all my challenges, really, I'm turning them into insights and things to help me grow. And they even end up making me a better coach. So when I'm sitting in front of a client that is then going through a situation I was in, because I didn't allow the situation to overwhelm me, I grew through it. I'm in a better position to provide insights. So what I will encourage you to do is that the pace of progress is affecting you, also get into community, get into the right community where people are, they're faith filled and they are positive thinking, because the reality is this: is a glass half full or it's a glass half empty. It depends on who you have around you. So that's really, really important. But let's know this. We always have a picture that success, that real life success at work, success in career, success in business, we think is always like school. Isn't it? In school, you're just going pass the exam. It's easy. It's a very controlled environment. You study, you go in there. As long as nothing bad happens to you on the day, if you've studied very well, then you will pass the exam. But real life doesn't happen that way. You're going through exams every day. Some of them you're not ready for, and it just comes up. Yes, so maybe you don't do well, or maybe you don't progress as well as you'd want to. Just know that's part of the get to lean into the progress and make sure you're growing through the process. So for me, all the challenges I'm going through, I'm growing through them, so that there's a joy that comes from growth. Personally, now there's some bad things that happen that we really don't want, but we don't. What do we do? It's happened. We just have to find a way to grow through it and um, turn it into something that benefits us. So I wish you well, the person that asked that question.
Thank you. I think because of our time, we have some more questions, but I think we our goal is always to make it an hour and a half event. So thank you so much, Coach Buki, and I will
Can I
give you
answer
1 minute.
this one in 30 seconds?
Yes,
Can
I
you
was going to say that. Yeah, okay.
can you share an example of someone who successfully reinvented themselves and what they did right? I will
Yes.
ask you that question. Whoever asks that, think about the people in your life. Who are the people around you in your life that's reinvented themselves that you can see, and think about what did they do right? Think about Dr. Ibikunle. Dr. Ibikunle, I think a year or two ago, he was working for an employer. Now he's reinventing himself as an entrepreneur and consultant. No, but in general principles, it will be like if you've reinvented yourself successfully. Number one, you haven't just gone into the new thing you're doing with your old knowledge,
Mm,
right? You have gotten out and gotten. You're not working based on common sense. you're working based on educated sense. You've gotten real insight and understanding of that area that you are going into so that you can actually achieve in it. So that's where I'll stop.
Thank you so much. Really, thank you for. And anyway, I want to give everybody else the opportunity to just appreciate. Just say something about Coach Buki. Type something. Say thank you. Let's express our gratitude to her. And by the way, she's not paid for doing this. As you know, MCAP is a not for profit, so she's doing this to support us. So at least you're getting some. I know if we are to pay you for this, I know we're going to write a big check. So let's appreciate Coach Buki, and thank you so much. And I want to encourage you to go back to rewatch. And I've seen the trend. Most time we tend to have hundreds of people rewatching our days because Saturday we know is always very busy. So thank you so much. Yeah, everybody's appreciating you. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. And by the way, this is about 8:30 p.m. in the UK. I saw somebody from UK as well. I saw Bridget from UK as well. From here, so the same time. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for coming again. Please follow Coach Buki. I follow her. I see what she posts. And learning is a continuous thing. The day you stop learning, that's the day you start dying. Somebody said. So make sure you learn. You take from the free one and also pay for the. Now I tell you, one of the things that has helped me so much is in life, in career, is me leveraging people that have gone ahead of me. I don't like reinventing the wheel. If I want to do something, I listen. I identify people that have excelled in those areas, and it's not only in career, in spiritual and everything. If you see my library reflects where I want to go. The book I read are people that have achieved what I want to achieve. I don't waste my time. Time is not waiting for anybody. I have even in business now. I have CEOs that we have book meeting with them. This is what I'm planning, and they will tell me. You spend 25 minutes with some of them, it's like 10 years they have saved you, 10 years of headache. I can tell you for a fact. That's the progress I've seen in my business in the last 8, 9 months. It's just because I seek people, I travel everywhere to see, pay if need to be. This is very, very important, and these principles have been proven over and over again. Please avail yourself and use them. God bless you. Again, you can join subscribe to MCAP. Some of our past events are on our YouTube. You can actually watch. I got a message yesterday from a Dr. Ekundayo, Sam Ekundayo from New Zealand. He told us that he was coming back also in October. That I'm very, very happy. So watch out for him. He's coming back to MCAP live in October, and we are working towards that. Once again, thank you, Coach Buki. Thank you, everyone. And we love you from all of us from all of us at MCAP. God bless you and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you, everyone. Bye. Thank you, Coach Buki. God bless you.